Anyhow, that could get you arrested in this town. I'm your host, BKP. Richie, how are you doing?
Doing good.
Richie, we have a couple minutes here. You filled in Wednesday, I appreciate that, and you've been producing, and we welcome you on board. So, Donald Trump, the President of the United States, actually listening to the show, after he heard your host BKP say this, he tweeted out, your President of the United States, wow, looks like James Comey exonerated Hillary Clinton long before the investigation was over, and so much more, a rigged system. General John Kelly is doing a great job as Chief of Staff. I could not be happier or more impressed, and this administration continues to get things done at a record clip. Many big decisions to be made over the coming days and weeks. America first. Let me explain that, and then I want you to get in on this, Richie. Let me explain that. What has taken place is obviously they have nothing else to do, so supposedly somebody that cannot get access to the president is crying to the Washington Post. It's saying that General John Kelly is stopping the president, and this is a lot of nonsense. Obviously, when all else fails, get back to the disorganization in the West Wing. Right, Richie? Absolutely. What say you?
I think John Kelly's doing a good job. I think that maybe there was something to the whole team of rivals with Reince Priebus and Bannon and all these guys, and it was chaos, which works great in the business world, right? But when you're running a White House and you only have so many hours in the day, someone like John Kelly, I think, comes in. He can be the gatekeeper. He can be the guy that can say no to folks. And I think he's doing a great job. I mean, President Trump's going to be President Trump no matter what. As we see, the tweets keep coming. And that's what makes him so effective, too, is he can bypass the media, and they just can't stand that.
No, they can't stand that. You out there, we said this morning, we have a Facebook post that we put out, and we want to thank Rose for keeping up with it. Former FBI agent James Comey wrote a draft to exonerate Hillary Clinton before 17 interviews. Anita Cook, you answered us by saying, why isn't Sessions doing anything? You think Sessions is going to do anything? What's your thought?
I think this goes way deeper than we may even realize. I've long said privately with friends that if you start with like around 2013, 2014, and how a lot of this came together, it just seems as if Comey and the FBI, you know, he was an Obama appointee, and the Republican James Comey, but those bureaucrats like him, the career Washington folks aren't, they're establishment. They're not even really a party. And I don't know, it seems as if there was a lot more to this whole thing than we realized at the surface. But when you start adding up the clues, like, did you see where 2 days ago the FBI announced that they were not going to release the files from the Clinton investigation because there was, quote, not enough public interest? Did you see that?
Well, no, I just want to know if I'm on the list of not enough public interest.
How absurd is that? I mean, I think that was the case of the year last year. How much trouble?
I know you got some notes there, some things you want to talk about. How much trouble is Trump or Sessions actually in if they just do nothing? If they bypass this, big trouble with the people?
Well, let's not make any mistake what this whole witch hunt is about. They still cannot figure out for the life of them how Donald Trump beat them. And what I mean by that is, the media kind of cheered Trump along during the primaries because in their mind's eye, they never took him seriously, and they thought, oh my gosh, what a dream it would be for us not to face Rubio, not to face Jeb, not to face Rand Paul, whoever, Ted Cruz. And they cheered it along, a lot like what we saw with Mitt Romney in 2012. Romney was the guy they wanted because of Obamacare. But when they got Trump, they realized, oh my gosh, this is a wave, and he beat them. And I think they were so naive to their 2008 victory, their 2012 victory, and their data operation and micro targeting. And Trump basically took that model that Obama used as the first real social media candidate, and Trump just amplified it. And they're trying to figure out how the heck he did it. And that's what this Mueller investigation is all about. They want all the files, they want all the messages, all the emails. Trump's data guy out west, they want to know how they did it, what they did, and figure out any kind of dirt that can be used against them. Because I think in their mind, they saw the Hillary Clinton email investigation as a year-long smear campaign against her. And they're just flipping the script, as the kids say, and doing it to Trump. I mean, it's nothing but opposition research in the end. I think that's all this is.
Opposition research.
That's all this is.
Well, let me ask you a question now. What are the top bullet points that you have notes on today that you wanted to get into? I'll let you lead the conversation. That's what I kind of like to do on Friday when Rick, and hello out there in Germany, to our friends in Germany. And this is Samantha's fault. If anybody is asking, this is Samantha's fault right here.
We miss you and you should be back.
Well, for one, I always love talking about the media, but if you noticed, I wrote this line earlier in the show. You said the whole "what we've learned from Katrina" thing.
Yeah, what we've learned. That one don't get. Go ahead. I'm gonna cringe, but you go right with it.
Well, it's almost accepted fact that Bush totally fumbled Katrina, even though you talked about it yesterday. That isn't true. Ray Nagin and Kathleen Blanco purposely, perhaps, left them out of that. And it creates this narrative that 5-10 years down the road, it's just accepted fact. Oh yeah, remember Bush fumbled it, and you don't get any details, and it just happens all the time. If you hear little George Stephanopoulos talk about, if 2000 comes up, Al Gore, it's like, the stolen election of 2000. Yeah, everybody knows that, right? Even though that wasn't the case at all, just like Russia hacked the election, even though that wasn't what happened at all. And it's just the way they create a narrative.
Well, what we've learned, in which we have known this for quite some time, folks, and the media doesn't bring this to light, is actually there is a protocol. And there's state rights, okay? There's federal rights, there's state rights, and realistically, your governor has to call them in, okay? Your federal government has some restrictions, whether you believe it or not, on just how far they can go. They're not the ones that lead in the evacuation notices. That's your state level leads. The government can get to a point if you bypass, so long, or the danger warnings from the government. They can step in and say, no, we're going to evacuate or demand evacuating. But these triggers are supposed to come from the governor first. And that has been your biggest difference here, folks, is Greg Abbott, the governor of Texas, followed all the triggers and put everything in place, and the government responded. Am I right?
Yeah, I mean, it all goes back to Eisenhower with the federalizing the National Guard and how the process kind of changed there in the 50s. But yeah, I mean, you're exactly right. The governor has to initiate the response from the federal government, right, because each state has its own sovereignty. And Katrina, they didn't do that, and it was it annoys me so much because it's almost like it was done on purpose. But
What about the national debt? And the national debt, the spending limit, and government shutdown, and what has to take place in September?
They're going to have to raise the debt ceiling, and we've seen it year in and year out during the Obama years. They love to kick the can down the road, so to speak. And they'll get it done late into the night, right before it's supposed to be done, just like they always do. I'm not real worried about it. But then your buddy Joe Scarborough this morning said him and his gang of misfits, the peanut gallery, were talking about, well, I think Trump's going to shut the government down because he wants the wall, and he's going to do this, and it's going to be the end of the world. And you know, I don't know, they'll get it done, because at the end of the day, like Tucker Carlson says, if we could just get a Republican Congress finally.
Congress to save the Dreamers. I haven't had time to read this article, but the DREAM Act, that is actually an executive order from President Obama.
It's not an act.
Well, that's not an act, right? The DREAM is the executive order. Exactly. I have that wrong because it is an executive order. But what about the Dreamers? What about Congress? What do you think they will do?
I think this is actually the biggest issue we face right now, because it is the definition of a catch-22, BKP, because there is a point to the fact that these kids are here from no fault of their own, but at the same time, they're benefiting from taxes that you and I pay that, you know, it's not how it was meant to be. But, you know, similar laws, the immigration, like what we saw in Alabama and Arizona, destroyed the ag business in Alabama. Have you looked much into that? How, you know, they just couldn't find the labor, and that's the cold hard truth, is that there will be a labor shortage, but at the same time, you can't have illegal. You know, you're not a citizen, and you can't enjoy the same privileges that citizens do. I mean, or else why even be a country? Why even have a flag?
Well, you know, here's the thing, and I think those of you at home know me. I know the staff here, Sam, they know how I react to things, and they'll hear me say all too many times, yesterday is just that. It's yesterday. Yesterday is just that. It's yesterday. Let's talk about tomorrow. Let's talk about what the game plan is tomorrow. So I think by no means would you ever hear on this show me upholding former President Obama and almost anything. But I do think it's important to say so many of these things happened yesterday. They did happen, meaning it's past tense. We have to solve it, and we have to look at tomorrow. And I always said to people out there, some people get into the send them all back, okay, when it comes to illegal immigration, or illegal aliens, not immigrants. Send them all back. And I always say, you know, if you're a 4-year-old kid and you're coming across the border with mom and dad, because that's what you're supposed to do, be with your mom and dad, and they get you across the border, and the next thing you know, we have amnesty in this country. And people don't realize that. It's already done. I mean, you cannot in this country, when we start talking about the DREAM Act, let me, well, I'll call it the DREAM Act, but whatever, Dreamers, okay?
You mean like the Rubio deal?
Well, no, let me rewind here, because a lot of people get all bent out of shape. Oh, the Dreamers, I'm tired of hearing it. You cannot refuse these children entry into your public school. Game over. Right. You take a 5-year-old kid to a public school in the United States of America. They have no documentation. Mom and dad have no documentation. Your public school cannot ask questions. It's a fact, okay? You look it up. I think they're called 999 because every student gets classified. So if you're in the first grade or whatever, and mom and dad take you over there and they can't speak English, and the only one that can speak English is the 6-year-old. It's happening every day in this country. And what are those ESO or EOS teachers?
ESL.
Sam? ESL? English second language? ESL.
ESL.
Right. Go do this, folks. If you're listening, and I sometimes I like to rewind and go a different way than what the media is going. So if you're listening out there this morning and you hear Dreamers, and you're all up in arms because they get these little bullet points out to get you all up in arms.
Yeah,
okay?
Call them Dreamers.
All right. If you're listening out there, go do this. You cannot, in the United States of America, deny a child public education. Check it out. Every child in a school has a classification. They're classified so they can pull up the 001, 003s. So I hate to say it like that. I think if they have no document, my thought is it's 999. So you go to any school in the United States here in Georgia and you say, I'd like to know how many 999. That's my thought right off. What that means is those are children Now, they're not going to give you names because that goes against classified information or personal information that they cannot release. But they're going to give you a number of how many they have. That means that individual has no documentation, no Social Security, no identification, no documentation. Mom and dad maybe speaks no English. 6-year-old is the only one speaking English. You don't know if you have an immunization card. I swear to God, folks, you think I'm lying. You don't know if you have an immunization card. You don't know what they have, where they come from, where they live. You can't ask any questions. The school can't. Their hands are tied. So when you go ahead.
And it just ends up sucking money out of the public school systems, especially rural school systems. But if I were to make a bold prediction right here.
Oh, go ahead. I'm always up for bold predictions.
Why is Donald Trump, what is he famous for? What was that book called?
The Art of the Deal.
I think there will be a deal. And here's what I think it'll be.
Go with it. I'm interested.
I think that something similar to that Gang of 8 bill from Rubio and those guys a few years ago will come through, but with one caveat: funding for the wall will be part of it. Because going back to your point, the main issue when everyone was so against a couple of years ago was the flow that was coming. As soon as President Obama announced this executive order, it went into hyperdrive. People thought, okay, we got the green light to just flow on in. Well, stopping the leak is the first thing, right? Turning off the water. If
right. Don't grab a mop if the wall's still gushing with water.
So we've done that. The wall will make that permanent. And then if you can somehow figure out a way to make these folks permanent, and as Obama would say, get them out of the shadows, you can create a tax base that will, help us, help our struggling local schools. Just with.
All right, not to set you up that you don't know the answer. So don't take this wrong,
sure.
But you see on the table every morning I have Ronald Reagan's diary there.
Right.
Okay, and I like to read 3 or 4 pages of that every day. Why is it so important? Let me ask you a question. Why the Republicans is it so important to secure the border first, to do border security first before anything else? Why is that their main objective before they do anything else?
Because if you can somehow make Texas a blue state, what will happen?
Okay.
You will never lose another election again if you're the Democrat. So I think that's what the root of it is.
I agree with you, but the Republicans, let me explain, folks, why the Republicans say no deal until we secure our border and secure, people entering this country illegally. Here's why. Ronald Reagan is in 86, was it 86, the amnesty bill? Okay, your president, Ronald Reagan, made a deal, all right? He made a deal with amnesty. A lot of you may not know the details. And in the amnesty deal, because see, we're talking about dreamers staying. So, and Richie comes up and says, well, I'll tell you what, we'll make a deal. I like where you're going, so I want to take that. So Richie says, all right, we might have a Gang of 8 similar. We might have a bill like that with the caveat of wall funding. So let's take what he said. Sounds good, right? Guess what? Ronald Reagan did that. I think it was with Tip O'Neill, Speaker of the House back then. He did that in, I think, 86 or 88. Look it up, but I know I'm somewhere there. And the deal was, all right, I'll give amnesty. We'll shut the water off if you were here and you could prove this, this, and this. Why do I do that? Because your host sat with several of these guys, the Jose, Lancho, or several, I can name them, in Philadelphia immigration, and took a number. I was there all day with them, trying to help them get their papers back in the 80s. Okay, but the deal was, we'll give you the amnesty part, you close the border. We didn't get that, folks. So every time, don't forget, they did not keep the deal. So when you think the Republicans are cold-hearted, hard-hearted, saying border control, border security first, then we'll make a deal. That's why. Because we went down that road once, we got it stuck to us, bottom line.
And that's why you want the wall, because if you're Republicans now, you remember back then, and you remember
exactly. And that's the deal.
That they didn't hold up. Well, just like right now. I mean, we approved during the Bush administration fencing, and that never happened. So building that wall ensures that no one's going to be able to go back on their word, because they're going to have to tear it down.
We always do a bipartisan deal. We always do bipartisan. We reach across the aisle. They see it our way, we see it their way. But the interesting thing is they always get their way first. Mm-hmm. And Trump then our way is forgotten, border security. But I want to wrap something up because we only got 9 minutes. I just want to say this. When you hear dreamers all day, and I just want to say this, English as a second language, okay? That's fine, but that should be an elective, all right? That should be an elective like Spanish is in high school. You know, like where you have to have 3 or 4 languages, 2 languages to graduate. You go to your school. Now, a grade school is a different subject, okay? No pun intended subject. But go to your school. You are hiring in the early years of 1st, 2nd, 3rd grade, ESL, English as a second language, because the amount of students you have coming into your school. Check that out. And how many 999? And I never will forget the grandmother that sent me a message the first day I did this story. It said, I tried to get my granddaughter. Now listen to this, folks. I'm going to leave it here. I tried to get my granddaughter in school. Her mother, I'll just not say all of the personal things the mother was going through. I'm not the legal guardian, but somebody's got to take care of this kid. I don't have the immunization. I don't have her records. I went to school and they turned me down and would not enroll my granddaughter. But somebody can come in that is illegal, supposedly, and doesn't speak English, and the law says they can't ask any questions. That's true this morning. So let's fix that kind of garbage before we start crying the blues of somebody getting in-state tuition.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Last word. You got a minute and a half.
Well, what do you do though? Do you deny them entrance? I mean, you don't want them, a bunch of kids that don't even speak English out running the streets all day. I mean, I mean. Well, we don't
put
them to work in a factory. We can't do that.
I'm just saying why that you need to know. You can't complain that they're graduating the 12th grade. They made A's all their life, and now they want to go to college when we're the ones that let them in there in the 1st grade. I guess that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying they don't get, but people need to know we have an amnesty program that nobody talks about.
One last thing, and we saw this during Trump's ascension, where he would kind of hijack some of the Bernie Sanders populist ideas, even though they weren't necessarily strictly liberal ideas like ending TPP, that sort of thing. But if he does this and pulls this off, think of the Hispanic vote that will turn toward Republicans. If Trump's the guy that gets this done, what that will mean for the future.
Richie, I have the tape. I have the tape all the way back. Folks, you know it. If you've been watching for quite some time, I told you the Republicans have the opportunity months ago to turn the Hispanic vote Republican and win that vote, and they can in this issue. Richie, stick with us. We got some pictures. Okay, we could not do the weather, and we're in the restaurant and everything, and we could not work it out. Rena could not come over from the Humane Society of Blue Ridge with our pet of the week. I can't see the pictures. You running some pictures? Who is this, Sam? Joey? This is Joey. Now, Joey is available. Obviously, he has made it through the intake process. Yes. So Joey's made it through the intake process. He was going to be with us today from the Humane Society of Blue Ridge. Rena, we're sorry, but we'll be back next week, and we're working something out. We're working some different things out. Sam's working some things out to make it to where we have a pet of the week every week, even through the fall and winter when we go indoors. So we're doing that, and we are scheduling now. We're working out the details of going out to the Humane Society and doing about a 20-minute segment. So we're always asking you to go there, right? So we're going to show you what it would look like if you go. They have plenty of cats, plenty of dogs, and plenty of great volunteers to help you. That's Humane Society BlueRidgeHumaneSociety.org. Did I get that? BlueRidgeHumaneSociety.org. All the details are on there. Now, something else, high school football. We have high school football, folks, all around North Georgia. And as you know, Team FYN Sports, we cover it all. And we will start with Gilmer Gilmer Bobcats are driving over tonight, kickoff 7:30 to play the Cedartown Bulldogs. Let's see if I can do this from memory, okay? I think I have this. Let's see, this is a test. Richie, tell them the truth. It's not on the screen.
Sure isn't.
Not on the screen. Okay, let's see if I can get this down. Because, you know, got the gray hair and everything. And this is Sam's fault. Anyhow, the Gilmer Bobcats are traveling over to take on the Cedartown Bulldogs. That's at 7:30 tonight. Go over there, follow them. The Pickens Dragons are headed to play Pepperell. Pepperell's field's not ready, so they're going to be playing at Berry College tonight. Go over there. It's Berry College. They're going to be the Pickens Dragons are going to be playing Pepperell over there at Berry. And Pepperell's picked 17 points to win. Not going to happen. Tell them, Coach Parker and all the guys. RJ, have a good night over there. So that's that one. And then the Union Panthers are headed across state lines. Hope they all can go. They're headed across. I'm sorry, Sam. It's just having fun. The Union Panthers are headed across state lines to take on the Hayesville Yellow Jackets. I think I got that down. 7:30 game time. And then your FYNTV Rebels, folks. This is going to be a great game. It's worth the drive. Now, if you're going to stay in town, this is mandatory. I'm sorry, I hate to be like that. But it's mandatory if you stay in town tonight that you have to come to Blue Jeans and listen to music. Who we got, Ken?
Jeff and Dave Rogers tonight.
Who was that, Sam?
Jeff and Dave Rogers.
Jeff and Dave Rogers. Thank you for Sam for forwarding that on. I can only hear 20 feet. Jeff and Dave Rogers tonight. Music 3 nights in a row. Don't miss it. Blue Jeans Pizza here, right here in Blue Ridge, Georgia. But if you're not here, the other mandatory thing is to go over and support the FYNTV Rebels. Where else? Ringgold. I got them. I'm 4 for 4, Richie. 4 for 4.
Which game are you most interested in? What intrigued you about the slate this week?
There's 2 games. Gilmer going to Cedartown. Cedartown's just too good. I hate to put it like that. They just are. They're strong. Hayesville, I don't think is quite the challenge over in. I don't think that's quite the challenge over there for the Panthers. But the 2 games to keep up with tonight will be the Pickens Dragons at Berry College against Pepperell, because Pepperell is a good team. They're only a 3A and the Dragons are a 4A, and the Pepperell's picked to win by 17. That's going to be a game. And let me tell you something. The Rebels opened up their season opener very strong, very solid, all on both sides of the ball, kicking game. Mrs. Soseby, is it Sarah? Sarah Soseby, 6 for 6 in the extra points. The Rebels have all the tools, but they're going to play a very good Ringgold. I mean, a very good team. So those are the 2 I'm picking to really watch tonight, is the FYNTV Rebels and Pickens Dragons.
I agree. Pepperell's always year in, year out, perennially. People know them across the state, but the fact that Pickens and FYNTV both having 2 weeks to prepare, I think will help both of them out. I think they'll be able to maybe even go steal one on the road. And
everybody's on the road this weekend.
And I'm excited to see what Gilmer does, how they respond. I was very moved by what Coach had to say to us at the show
last Tuesday night. Yes,
and they had a little bit of a come to Jesus meeting, and I think that
he gave them 2 doors to pick from.
Exactly, and he kept it real with us too. I mean, he's not sugarcoating it with anybody. I saw an unnamed. Another source for news quoted him as saying that it wasn't real pretty, and he kept it honest, and I'm just excited to see how they respond, because it seems like being around those kids on Tuesday nights that they're starting to buy in. It's going to be a process.
Gilmer, realistically, everybody knows it, and there's no secret. They're rebuilding. They're right here. They're at ground level of rebuilding. So you want to win on the scoreboard, but the coach has to. Coach Wingard has to win I don't even like to say this in football, but he has to win weekly moral victories. Has to. But I'm going to say this, folks, again, Fannin at Ringgold and
Pickens at Pepperell.
Pickens at Pepperell. There are games to watch. And another thing about this time of the season, we got to go, it's 10 o'clock, but the other thing about this time of the season, the teams don't have the film to watch.
Sure.
And they're not in game 4 and game 5 where they have a lot of back film to watch. So there's still stuff surprising. Rich, thanks for sitting in. Richie, thank you, Ken, very much. I want to thank Ken at Blue Jeans for opening up to us today in our backup plan. We want to thank all of our friends. We miss them over at Sycamore Crossing. Clay, you at Tupelo Tea, New Blue Home and Gift, the Kinty Store, and the Broken Bull. My memory's working. I probably take it. I'm doing pretty good today.
Shout out to Sam and Rose.
Sam and Rose, shout out. Sam's fault. See you Monday. No, we won't be here Monday, Tuesday.